Greetings, my lords and my ladies. Welcome to another episode of 10 interesting facts about immortals. And tonight I will tell you those facts about Hannibal Barca. Before Rome became an empire, it faced an enemy that brought it to its knees. An enemy so terrifying, Roman mothers told their children stories about him to make them behave. His name was Hannibal Barca. He almost destroyed the Roman Republic before it ever had a chance to become the Roman Empire. Here are 10 facts about the man often called the father of strategy. Let's start with the name. Hannibal's family name, Barca, wasn't just a name, it was a nickname that became a title of honor. It comes from the Punic word barak, which means lightning or thunderbolt. It was first earned by his father, the great general Hannibal Barca, for the sheer speed and ferocity of his raids during the First Punic War. Hannibal would prove to be a thunderbolt that struck Rome for over 15 years. Hannibal's hatred for Rome wasn't just strategic, it was personal and religious. When he was just 9 years old, his father, preparing to go to war in Spain, took him to the temple of Melkart in Carthage. There, Hamilcar made the young boy swear an oath that he would never be a friend to the Romans. According to the Roman historian Polybius, Hannibal gladly took that vow and he dedicated his entire life to keeping it. Once he was in Italy, Hannibal found himself surrounded by enemies. To avoid assassination, he employed a very unusual tactic – the wig. The historian Polybius tells us that Hannibal had a set of wigs made, each making him look like a man of a different age. He would constantly change his clothes and appearance, making him almost impossible to recognize, even for people who knew him well. In a foreign land, this paranoia kept him alive. Everyone knows he crossed the Alps with elephants, but the scale of the achievement is mind-boggling. He left Spain with around 40,000 soldiers and 37 war elephants. After a 17-day nightmare of fighting mountain tribes, avalanches and freezing temperatures, he descended into Italy with only about 26,000 men and a handful of elephants. It was a gamble that cost him nearly half his army, but it worked. Rome had no idea he was coming. Hannibal's genius peaked on a hot summer day in 216 BC at Cannae. He was outnumbered nearly 2 to 1 roughly. 50,000 men against 86,000 Romans. Hannibal arranged his troops in a convex line, with his weakest troops in the center. As the Romans pushed forward, the center gave away. But when they pushed in, Hannibal's cavalry slammed into their rear, completely encircling the largest army Rome had ever assembled. It remains a classic example of the double envelopment, a perfect battle. After Cannae, Hannibal reportedly collected the gold signet rings from the dead Roman knights and senators. He sent a large basket of these rings back to Carthage as proof of his victory. The famous 18th century sculpture in the Louvre shows Hannibal holding these rings, contemplating the scale of his victory. It's estimated that between 50,000 and 70,000 Romans died in a single day. Despite his aggressive reputation, Hannibal's greatest strategic challenge came from a Roman who refused to fight. The dictator Quintus Fabius Maximus realized that the only way to beat Hannibal was to avoid battle entirely. He shadowed Hannibal's army, cut off his supplies, and refused to engage. This Fabian strategy frustrated Hannibal to no end. In fact, Hannibal once cleverly escaped a trap by tying torches to the horns of cattle and driving them away at night, convincing the Romans he was fleeing in a different direction. When the war was finally lost, Hannibal didn't retire quickly. He returned to politics and was elected as a suffet, something like a judge or governor, in Carthage. He implemented major economic and political reforms to root out corruption and pay off the war debt to Rome. He was so effective that the Roman elites, still fearing him, demanded his surrender. This forced him into exile, proving that Rome feared Hannibal the politician almost as much as Hannibal the general. On the run, Hannibal found refuge in the east, advising the kings of Syria and Bithynia against Rome. But the Romans hunted him like an animal. Eventually, King Prusias of Bithynia agreed to betray him and hand him over to Rome. Finding his villa surrounded by soldiers and with no way out, Hannibal, now in his 60s, retired to his room. Rather than be paraded through Rome in chains, he drank from a vial of poison he had kept hidden in a ring, ending his life on his own terms in 183 BC. Although he lost the war, Hannibal shaped the future. The trauma of his invasion forced Rome to completely reinvent its military and its identity. They built massive walls, changed their tactics, and developed the confidence to eventually become a Mediterranean superpower. Military leaders from Napoleon to Patton have started his campaigns. As they said in Rome, he was the scourge of Rome, the enemy who almost erased their city from history, and in doing so, forged its legend. Thank you for watching, and see you again in the Infinity Kingdom. Bye bye.